wife, Penelope, and I have been married for 3 years, and for the most part, it's been good. Great, even. The kind of marriage people post about on Instagram, with matching mugs and hashtags like #blessed. The closest thing we had to a real blow-up wasn't about kids, money, or in-laws. It was about her getting a job. See, Penelope studied marketing. Don't ask me why. I mean, this is the woman who spends hours painting sad cats in berets and abstract blobs that are apparently social commentary. Marketing never seemed like her thing, but she went through 4 years of school and racked up student loans like she was trying to win a contest. And, shocker, the art career didn't exactly launch. No galleries were calling. No collectors banging down the door for her series of existential lemons. So, reality check time. Bills to pay, loans to kill, and me not exactly swimming in gold coins like Scrooge McDuck. She had to get a job, which, naturally, turned into World War III. "I can't believe you're making me do this," she said one night, arms crossed like I just told her I was leaving her for a woman named Doris who breeds iguanas. "Making you? Pen, you studied marketing. This is literally the thing you trained for." I replied, trying not to laugh. "I studied marketing because I thought it would be fun. It's not. It's soul-sucking." "Yeah, well, guess what else is soul-sucking? Sally Mae. She doesn't care about your soul. She just wants her money." That did not go over well. For weeks, she moped around like she'd been sentenced to hard labor. Every morning before work, she'd sigh so dramatically you'd think she was heading off to dig ditches in Siberia. And of course, I was the convenient villain. "This is all your fault," she muttered one night after stomping through the door. "My fault? Did I pick marketing as your major? Did I swipe your credit card for 4 years? No, that was all you, Picasso." Eventually, I had to sit her down for the talk. Not the talk about birds and bees, but the one about bills and responsibility. I explained, gently at first, and then not so gently, that she chose this path. Her art wasn't making money. We had a life to fund. Adults don't get to frolic around following their dreams 24/7. Somebody's got to pay for Netflix. She glared at me like I'd just killed her favorite houseplant, but I wasn't backing down. "Look," I said, "make art, absolutely. Paint every lemon you want. But right now, you've got to be responsible. Pay the bills. Keep the lights on. And when we're not eating ramen for dinner, you can thank me." She didn't like that answer, of course. She went on strike, silent treatment, 3 days. You'd think I'd enjoy the peace and quiet, but honestly, her dramatic sighs were almost preferable to the sound of forks clinking in total silence. Eventually, she got over it. Things returned to normal. She still hated the job, but who doesn't? Show me a person who loves their 9 to 5, and I'll show you a liar. The saving grace was when she started carving out a few hours a week for her art. The sad cats came back, the lemons got more existential, and, miracle of miracles, her mood improved a lot. Her art is where the whole mess starts. At first, it was harmless. She was filling up the spare room with her pieces. I didn't mind. It's not like we were planning to turn that room into a home gym or a nursery. The only thing it was doing was collecting dust and one very ugly lamp we inherited from her aunt. And truth be told, I actually like her art. Always have. That's what made it so hard to be the bad guy about the whole get a job situation. Nothing like crushing your wife's dreams while pretending you're just being practical. Sometimes I'd wander in there, look around, and think, today's theme appears to be sad fruit and women glaring into the abyss. I'd seen it all, and I mean all. I've got a memory like a steel trap, every brushstroke, every palette, cataloged. If one of those paintings had walked away on its own, I'd have noticed. Then one day, she comes bouncing into the kitchen, eyes lit up like she just discovered Netflix doesn't judge when you binge. "Aaron, I found this Facebook group. A bunch of artists rent out space together and do a kind of communal gallery exhibition every couple of weekends." I raised an eyebrow. Facebook? People still use that? I thought it was just moms sharing minion memes. She ignored me. "I'm going to sign up for the next one. Just to try." The first time she went, her expectations were, let's just say, don't cry if nobody buys the sad lemons. I went along, because of course I did. Moral support, designated pack mule, an occasional guy who pretends he knows how to hang a canvas straight. It wasn't a huge success, but she sold 2 pieces. 2. You'd think she'd just won America's Got Talent. She was bouncing around the apartment afterward like she'd discovered the cure for taxes. "Did you see their faces, Aaron? They actually wanted my work." "Yeah, I saw. They didn't even haggle." That's how you know they're either impressed or bad at budgeting. She ignored the sarcasm again. Classic Penelope move. And honestly, seeing her that happy made me happy. So when she wanted to go again, I didn't put up a fight. The second time, she sold a few more pieces. Then it was like clockwork. Every couple of weeks, hauling canvases out of the spare room, setting up shop, and me tagging along whenever I could to watch the circus. Then one day she drops this little bombshell while sipping her coffee like she's announcing the weather. So, the exhibitions have been such a success, they're going to hold them every weekend now. Every weekend. Now, I've been to a couple of these things. Each time there were more artists, more customers, and, credit where credit is due, less of that weird smell from the first gallery space. So, I didn't question it. It was a nice side income for her, and it scratched that starving artist, but not literally starving, itch she had. Honestly, more exhibitions just felt like a win to me. She was happy, we had extra cash, and the spare room wasn't going to collapse under the weight of existential fruit paintings. What could go wrong? Answer: apparently, everything. About a month later, she came home from one of her exhibitions, and something was off. Normally, the second she walked in the door, she'd launch into a TED talk about who bought what they said about her brushwork, and how her artistic soul was finally being recognized. But this time, nothing. Not a peep. She just plopped her bag down like she'd come back from a trip to the DMV. At first, I figured maybe she hadn't sold anything. But no. Penelope loved to share her failures just as much as her victories. She'd have walked in and said, "Well, nobody wants my lemons, guess I'll die," and then eaten ice cream straight from the tub. So the silence was weird. "Hey," I said casually, "how'd it go today? Make any sales?" She blinked like I'd just spoken Swahili. "Oh, what? You know sales? Paintings? People giving you money in exchange for the thing you poured your soul into." "Oh, yeah, I think so." "You think so?" I raised an eyebrow. "You don't usually need a calculator to remember if someone handed you cash." She fumbled. I just can't really remember which one sold today." That was the moment my mental alarms went off like a car with a dying battery. Penelope? Forgetting which painting she sold? Impossible. Each piece was basically one of her children. I'd seen her tear up once when she accidentally spilled coffee on a sketch. There was no way she'd just forget. Still, I didn't jump down her throat. No point firing accusations when I didn't know what the crime was. So I kept the conversation rolling, all friendly-like, while inside I was strapping on a metaphorical detective hat. "Come on, babe," I said lightly. "You always remember." "Which one was it? Was it the big abstract with all the blue? Or maybe the grumpy fruit bowl?" She hesitated. It was the Golden Horizon." "Yeah, that one." I froze. The Golden Horizon? I knew that painting like the back of my hand. It was one of my favorites, and guess what? She'd sold it 3 weeks ago. I even remembered the guy who bought it. Looked like a retired pirate with a man bun. So she was lying. Boldly, badly, and definitely to me. I didn't call her out. Not yet. I just smiled, nodded, and said, "Wow, congrats on that one." Like I was the supportive husband she clearly thought I was too dumb to be suspicious. But my brain was already spinning the wheel of possibilities. Why lie about art sales? Why cover it up? The obvious answer hit me like a ton of existential lemons. She was cheating on me. I didn't want to believe it. I thought Penelope and I had a great relationship. The kind of marriage you'd put on a Hallmark card, minus the constant sighing about her job. But then again, I had friends who swore their relationships were perfect, only to get blindsided when their partners decided to reenact a soap opera with someone else. It could happen to anyone, apparently. I just never thought it could be me. The idea made me furious and heartbroken all at once. Like, really? Me? I cook. I clean. I laugh at your weird lemon paintings. What more could you possibly want? And then there was the guilt. Because even daring to think she might be cheating felt like I was the bad guy. My brain was playing tug of war. She's cheating. Don't be paranoid. But she lied. But maybe she's just forgetful. Spoiler. Penelope is many things, but forgetful isn't one of them. Still, I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't live in limbo. I had to know. And, as fate would have it, the opportunity practically fell into my lap that very night. She was in the kitchen making dinner. Something involving kale, I'm sure, because God forbid we eat food that tastes good, while her phone was charging in the living room. I stared at it. It stared back. The temptation was biblical. So I did what any sane, totally not paranoid husband would do. I unplugged it and tried to unlock it. That's when I got my next red flag. The passcode didn't work. She'd changed it. Penelope had been using the same passcode since before we got married. It was basically muscle memory for me by now. And suddenly, changed. "Oh, come on," I muttered at the phone like it could hear me. "What are you hiding, Da Vinci?" Of course, she wasn't exactly the CIA. For someone clearly trying to keep me out, she'd picked the most obvious passcode in the world, her birthday. Really, Penelope? I half expected the backup code to be 1234. Anyway, once I was in, it didn't take long. I found exactly what I'd been afraid of. My stomach dropped, my heart sank, and I felt like I'd just walked in on my parents. Never mind. The point is, it was bad. She hadn't been going to exhibitions every weekend. In fact, they were still only happening twice a month. Just like before. The other weekends? All made up. A big, fat, paint-smeared lie. Instead of displaying her lemons and sad cats, she was sneaking off to meet Matthew, the man she was cheating on me with. And oh, the texts. Let's just say they didn't leave much to the imagination. She wrote to him with more passion than she'd ever described brushstrokes. And where did they meet? Exclusively at the seedy motel. Not a nice hotel, not even a discreet Airbnb. Just the kind of establishment where the ice machine probably doubles as a crime scene. Never anywhere remotely respectable. Which, honestly, was insulting on multiple levels. If you're going to cheat on me, at least have the decency to do it in a place with working air conditioning and a continental breakfast. But no, Penelope picked the seedy motel. Classy. And this guy? Let's just say she wasn't trading up. Based on his borderline illiterate writing style, she might as well have been sexting with a malfunctioning speak and spell. Every message looked like a middle schooler had typed it while wearing oven mitts. Words missing vowels, random, you instead of you, and enough typos to make autocorrect wave the white flag. I didn't have the time, or honestly, the patience, to read through every single mangled text right then. Plus, I should have realized that sitting there cackling at her phone while she chopped kale in the kitchen wasn't exactly stealth mode. If she caught me before I had my facts straight, I'd look like the paranoid husband from a bad Lifetime movie. So, I took the smart route, exported the whole disaster of a conversation, and emailed it to myself. Modern problems, modern solutions. Then I slid her phone back into place like a criminal covering his tracks. She was none the wiser. I didn't confront her right away. I figured I'd play it cool. The problem? I suck at playing it cool. That night, I barely spoke 2 words to her and acted like touching her would give me food poisoning. Of course, she noticed. Penelope could sense a mood swing from across the room. Right before bed, she leaned over and asked, "Aaron, are you okay? You seem off." I plastered on my best fake smile. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a headache. Stressful day." Which wasn't a complete lie. My head had been pounding since I found out my wife was apparently starring in a low-budget motel romance. When she finally fell asleep, I parked myself in the living room with my laptop and went through the exported text like I was reviewing evidence for a trial. That's when I pieced the whole thing together. They'd met at one of the exhibitions. From the messages, it was clear he wasn't one of the artists, unless finger painting with Cheeto dust counted. And he definitely didn't come across like an art appreciator, unless you count appreciating that the gallery snacks were free. Somehow, he'd managed to get her number, sent a few tragic attempts at flirting, and, shock of all shocks, Penelope caved faster than a folding chair at a county fair. They met up at a motel, and things took off from there. What was even more embarrassing wasn't just that Penelope cheated, it was who she cheated with. This guy was broke. Not tight month, had to cut back on Starbucks, broke, but constantly asking my wife for pocket change like a teenager outside a 7-Eleven broke. At first, he had the decency to disguise it as borrowing. "Hey babe, can you spot me $10? I'll pay you back Friday." Spoiler, Friday never came. Eventually, he stopped pretending and went full panhandler. "Need 20. You are amazing." And what did Penelope do? She sent it. Immediately. No hesitation. No questions. Just zap. I was floored. Here's a woman with a stable income, a husband who cooks, cleans, and occasionally tolerates kale, and me, someone who can actually string together a complete sentence. And she's sneaking around to bankroll a half-literate leech who thinks "you are" is acceptable communication. Pathetic doesn't even begin to cover it. I wanted to scream at her, to ask her why she was throwing our relationship away for this guy, this broke, barely coherent human typo. But I didn't. That night, I felt drained, like the universe had wrung me out and left me on the clothesline. I told myself I'd confront her the next day. Yeah, didn't happen. The next day came and went. And the day after that, what I actually did was spend a full week pacing the apartment like Sherlock Holmes on decaf, trying to figure out the least soul-crushing way to end this disaster. It finally came to a head during her next exhibition. This time, there really was one scheduled, though I didn't know, or care, if she was actually there. At this point, she could have been selling paintings or selling herself short in another motel for all I cared. As far as I was concerned, she wasn't my wife anymore. So, while she was gone, I packed my things. All of them. Every book, every shirt, even the mug that said "World's Okayest Husband." And I walked out. No dramatic confrontation, no yelling match, no scene worthy of HBO. Just gone. I did leave a note, though. I'm not a monster. It was short, to the point. It said I knew about the affair, that she'd been lying, and that I was leaving her and filing for divorce. That was it. Simple, I know, but honestly, I didn't have much I wanted to say to her. She called me that same evening when she got back from work. Crying, of course. Not the dignified, single tear down the cheek crying you see in movies. No, the hiccupy, snotty, gasping for air crying that makes you hold the phone 6 inches away just to save your eardrum. First thing out of her mouth. Where are you? I said, the moon. I hitched a ride with Elon Musk. She didn't laugh. Instead, she bawled even harder. Babe, come home. Let's talk. I told her, flat as a pancake. We're talking. This is literally a conversation. Then she went quiet. Well, not quiet. More like wordless sobbing into the phone, like I was supposed to crumble under the sheer force of her wet breathing. Honestly, I debated hanging up right there. I cannot stand it when people weaponize tears. She wasn't crying when she was sneaking off with Matthew, was she? Didn't sound like she was weeping into those messages. Finally, she sniffed, pulled herself together, and asked, what do you think you know? Oh, just that you've been busy moonlighting with Matthew, I said. I saw the messages. Got copies, too. So please, don't try the old it's all a misunderstanding routine. I'm not that dumb. There was a pause, then the magic words, I'm sorry. It was all a stupid mistake. I almost clapped. Almost. She went on about how she'd met him at some exhibition, how he made her feel like a teenager again, how she didn't have to think about work or responsibilities when she was with him. Oh right, I said. Because nothing screams romantic escape like a 30-something bum who's allergic to responsibility. Makes total sense. She didn't rise to the bait. Just kept chanting her mantra. I made a stupid mistake. I'll do anything. Just give me a chance. I told her, crystal clear, it's a done deal. I'm not coming back. Few more sniffles. Then she pivoted back to the original interrogation. Where are you? Just tell me where you are. I dropped the phone. Literally. Didn't even bother with a goodbye. She's been on some kind of private detective mission ever since, trying to figure out where I went. I haven't told her I'm staying with a friend. Maybe she thinks if she tracks me down and does the whole dramatic doorstep performance, I'll fold. That's not possible. That last week under the same roof as Penelope felt like living in a haunted house where the ghost wasn't scary, just really annoying and passive-aggressive. Every time I looked at her, my blood pressure spiked. I wasn't mourning a marriage anymore. I was counting the minutes until I could pack my toothbrush and leave. Hated her face, hated her voice, hated that she still left coffee cups in the sink like she was making modern art installations out of mold. She knew the jig was up. No more gaslighting, no more, oh, you're just paranoid routine. Instead, she pivoted to excuses, text after text, like she was auditioning for the role of world's worst apologist. I just think you don't understand where I was coming from. I read it and what to reply. Yeah, no. Turns out, where you were coming from was room 304 at the seedy motel. But I never replied. The calls were worse. My phone would buzz like it was possessed, and I let every one of them go to voicemail. I didn't bother listening. I was saving my energy for when she finally got served divorce papers. And when she did, surprise, surprise, she called me again. This time I picked up, mostly out of morbid curiosity. Yeah, I said, flat as a pancake. She didn't sound devastated, just irritated, like I'd ruined her weekend plans. So, I got served, she said. Congratulations. Paperwork's a big step for you. You usually can't finish things. I really want to talk, Aaron. I don't, I shot back. That's when she pulled out her favorite party trick, flipping the script so fast you'd think she was auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. You pushed me to Matthew, she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed. You weren't supportive of my art career. You were always forcing me to think about money, about getting a job, and Matthew, he believed in me. He supported me following my passion. That's why I fell for him. I actually laughed. Couldn't help it, right? So I hit you with the pile driver of basic responsibility by asking you to pay a bill once in a while, and you bounced straight into Matthew's bed. Yeah, real smooth transition. Totally believable. And you're not even giving us a chance to talk this out, she snapped. I'm the only one trying to fix this relationship. Penelope, you don't fix a house by burning it down first. That was enough for me. She wasn't going to stop until she rewrote the entire history of our marriage and cast me as the villain. I hung up mid-sentence and went back to whatever I was doing. Probably anything more productive, like alphabetizing the spices I no longer had to share with her. After that, radio silence. I ignored her calls, let her texts rot in the void. The only time I saw her was across a courtroom, which was fine by me. Until one day, she decided to pull a full-blown ambush in front of where I was living one day. I'd been staying with my buddy Toby at the time, trying to get my own place lined up. She'd been blowing up his phone now and then, asking if I was with him. Toby, loyal as a guard dog with a hangover, always covered for me. I don't know if somebody finally ratted me out, or if her sixth sense for making my life miserable kicked in, but somehow she figured out I was camped out at his place. By then, the divorce was already circling the drain. Every conversation was just a new round of who screwed who harder. I'd brought up her lies, her little side quests with Matthew, and she fired back with every nitpick under the sun. We weren't so much arguing as auditioning for the world's pettiest debate team. But what she really wanted, what she sank her claws into, was the house. I wasn't about to hand it over like some booby prize. She wanted to live in it. I wanted to sell it and split the money like civilized adults who hate each other. At first, I couldn't figure out why she was so obsessed. It was too big for her. We'd bought it imagining 2 kids running around. She couldn't afford it solo, not unless she suddenly discovered oil in the backyard. Then it hit me. She wasn't planning to live there solo. Enter Matthew, stage left. The man who couldn't go a week without hitting her up for pocket change. I'd seen their texts. Half romance, half Venmo requests. I was certain he didn't even have a job. Her grand plan was probably house for me, bills for Aaron, free escort service for Matthew. And that's when she staged her little ambush. Early morning, I'm bleary-eyed, dragging myself out for work, and there's this car parked right in front of the driveway. Didn't think anything of it until I got close enough to see the outline of someone inside. Boom! She pops out like she's been lying in wait all night. I nearly jumped out of my skin. What the hell are you doing here? I asked. She straightened her jacket like she was chairing a board meeting. We really need to talk. Great timing, I said. I was just thinking, you know what I'd love first thing in the morning before coffee? A driveway hostage negotiation. She ignored that, of course, and said, we need to come to a decision about the house. And it would be better for you if we did it without involving lawyers. At first, it sounded like a threat to me. Like she was setting me up for some Lifetime original movie nonsense, until Penelope kept talking. She went on about how the court was more likely to side with her because she was a woman. According to her, it would be easier for me if I just gave her the house and focused my energy on fighting for something else. I couldn't help but laugh. That's not how property division works, Penelope. You don't get the house because you've got ovaries. Pretty sure the law isn't a lady's first buffet. That's when I noticed she wasn't alone. Sitting in the driver's seat like a discount mob boss was Matthew. He was trying real hard to look intimidating, staring straight ahead, until our eyes locked. He nodded at me like we were in some kind of gangster movie, then climbed out of the car. I stayed exactly where I was. If this was supposed to be his dramatic entrance, it needed work. I asked, can I help you with something? Or are you just here to complete Penelope's TED Talk on gender-based real estate rights? He chuckled like I'd just told the funniest joke at open mic night, and said, you need to let Penelope have the house. You wouldn't like how things turn out otherwise. I'll make you regret being born. Okay, now that was definitely a threat. I wasn't scared. He wasn't exactly the Undertaker, but I wasn't about to poke the bear either. He had that look, the kind of guy who probably carries a weapon and thinks safety is for cowards. Also the kind who'd use it without hesitation. Still, this was Matthew, the guy partly responsible for blowing up my marriage. A part of me really wanted him to give me an excuse to throw a punch. I stared him down and asked, was that supposed to be a threat, or are you just really bad at motivational speaking? He smirked. Take it however you want. Great. I'll take it as you volunteering to mow my lawn and suck my garden hose. When that didn't get a rise, I added, here's the deal. Get off my property, or I call the cops. Your choice. Instead of listening, Matthew stepped forward and grabbed my shirt. His grip was firm enough to wrinkle it, which really ticked me off because I'd just ironed the damn thing. I smirked. All right, Matthew, I'm going to count to 3, and then I'm going to beat the shit out of you. His eyes narrowed. Oh yeah. Yeah. I stared him dead in the face. 1. I paused dramatically. He braced himself. 3. And before his brain had time to process what happened to numbers 2, my fist had already introduced itself to his jaw. He staggered back like I'd just unplugged him from the wall. Math is hard, isn't it, champ? I taunted, swinging again and catching him in the ribs. He doubled over, wheezing like a broken accordion. Right on cue, the front door burst open and Toby came charging out like Stone Cold Steve Austin, minus the shattering glass and beer cans. Give me a hell yeah, he hollered, and before Matthew could blink, Toby tackled him WWE style onto the lawn. We didn't just fight him. We choreographed violence. I held Matthew up like a training dummy while Toby worked him over with slaps so loud the neighbors probably thought someone was testing fireworks. At one point, Toby suplexed him into a bush. The bush did not survive. Finish him, Toby shouted in his best Mortal Kombat voice. I grabbed a garden hose, cranked it on, and sprayed Matthew until he slipped on the wet grass and went down like a cartoon villain. Toby jumped on him with both knees like some kind of deranged Power Ranger. By the end of it, Matthew looked less like a tough guy and more like leftover lasagna someone dropped on the pavement. By then Penelope was already running back to her car. He and Penelope scrambled back into the car like raccoons caught in the trash and sped off. tires squealing like they were auditioning for Fast and Furious, Deadbeat Edition. Toby came over, eyebrows high. You okay? Want to take the day off? I shook my head. Nah. If I let a dollar store mobster scare me away from work, then he wins. The only thing I need from you is that doorbell footage. You still have it? Of course, Toby said, grinning like he'd just been handed front row tickets to a comedy show. We sat down and went over the video together. It was crystal clear. Matthew's face, my face, Penelope doing her best, oh no, what's happening, expression. The audio was even better. Every single threat he barked out was caught perfectly. Honestly, it sounded like we'd hired a professional boom mic operator. By the time Matthew shouted his line about making me regret being born, Toby and I were doubled over on the couch, laughing so hard we nearly spilled our drinks. He sounds like a bargain bin Darth Vader. Toby wheezed. I had to pause the video twice just to catch my breath because my sides hurt from laughing. When the cops arrived, I handed over my statement and the footage. You're gonna love this one, I told them. It's like an episode of Cops, but with fewer teeth and more bad decisions. They asked if I had Matthew's last name. Nope, I said, but here's his phone number. Courtesy of Penelope's phone. You're welcome. A week later, I got a call from the police. Mr. Aaron, we ran the number you gave us. Your buddy Matthew has a greatest hits collection of prior complaints, intimidation, harassment, even a few assault charges. Some dropped, some pending. I couldn't help laughing. So, basically he's the Walmart version of Tony Soprano. The officer chuckled. You could say that. We're investigating both Matthew and Penelope. Him for criminal threats and assault, her for conspiracy. Looks like she recruited him to lean on you. A few days later, word got back to me. They'd both been taken in and questioned. And that's when it got really entertaining. Penelope tried to play the sweet, clueless act, like she had no idea Matthew might get physical. Matthew, of course, immediately sold her out. She told me to do it. Classic. Two rats on the same sinking ship, gnawing each other's tails the second the water hit their ankles. The police asked me if I'd be willing to testify against them, and honestly, I didn't even let the guy finish his sentence before blurting out, yes. I mean, come on, this wasn't a trick question. You think I'm going to protect Tweedledum and Tweedledummer after they try to strong-arm me in a driveway? Please. Good. The officer said, jotting it down in his little notebook. You sound enthusiastic. Enthusiastic? I laughed. Buddy, I'm downright excited. I'll wear my good shirt to court. Like I said before, I'm not the type that can be bullied. Never have been, never will be. And now, not only was I not bullied, but I was getting the satisfaction of watching both of them squirm under the weight of their own stupidity. And the best part? This whole intimidation fiasco ended up being the golden ticket in my divorce. When my lawyer played the footage for the judge, the man didn't even try to hide his disgust. He leaned back, rubbed his temples, and finally said, well, I can't reward her underhanded tactics. That would be absurd. Underhanded tactics? I muttered just loud enough for Penelope to hear. That's one way of putting it. I'd call it criminal cosplay. The judge went on, laying it out like he was narrating the downfall of a bad soap opera villain. We'll sell the house, but the larger portion of the profits goes to Mr. Aaron. And given her conduct, he will also receive most of the assets requested. I could barely stop myself from grinning. Penelope, on the other hand, looked like she'd just watched her favorite designer handbag being thrown in a wood chipper. Afterward, she whispered venom across the courtroom table. You stole everything from me. Correction, I whispered back. You gifted it to me when you hired a goon with the intimidation skills of a soggy waffle. She hasn't been handling life after the divorce well. At all. Rumor has it, she's been going around to anyone with ears, family, friends, strangers at the bus stop, telling them that I ruined her life, that I took everything. At first, yeah, it was a little awkward. I'd walk into a room and people would give me that look, the kind you say for someone who probably cheats at board games. I'd have to explain myself, and it felt like a PR tour. But then I dropped the line. Oh, you didn't hear? She was arrested. Something about trying to intimidate me into handing over the house. Didn't work out so well for her. Their jaws would hit the floor. And just like that, snap of the fingers, everyone started coming around to my side. Her family in particular was disgusted when they found out the real reason for the divorce. Apparently, your daughter cheated on me with a discount soap opera villain doesn't play well at Thanksgiving dinner. And when they found out about the guy she was dating now, forget it. Her mother actually called me one afternoon. You mean to tell me, she said, voice all shrill and shaky. Penelope left her marriage for that man? I said, yes ma'am. The kind of guy who thinks a Monster Energy drink is a personality trait. Real prize winner. She went quiet for a long second and then muttered, Lord help her. I just chuckled. Oh, I tried. Didn't take. But family wasn't her only problem. Between the legal fees for the divorce lawyer and the legal fees for her criminal case, she's basically living on dust and bad decisions. I found out she lost her job after the arrest. HR must have looked at her file and gone, "Yeah, we're not going to keep felony Barbie in the building." To the best of my knowledge, she hasn't found another one. And honestly, with the job market the way it is, it's already hard enough to get hired even when you don't have an active criminal case hanging over your head like a cartoon storm cloud. Of course, Penelope still claims I ruined her life. Like I was the one who filled out her Tinder profile or taught her how to make veiled threats in front of a police officer. She once actually told me, dead serious, "You destroyed everything for me." I looked at her and said, "Penelope, sweetheart, I couldn't destroy your life if I tried. You've been running that demolition project all on your own. I'm just the guy standing on the sidewalk with popcorn." But she's so allergic to accountability, she might as well carry an EpiPen labeled responsibility. She can't comprehend how her current mess is entirely her fault. I mean, I literally tried to teach her a little responsibility back when I told her to get a job. And what did she do? Use that as her excuse to step out on our marriage. Apparently, in her mind, "Honey, could you maybe contribute to the bills?" translates to "Go find a new boyfriend with a neck tattoo." Some people just can't be helped. Life's quieter these days, and I mean that in the best way possible. No Penelope drama, no Matthew trying to play tough guy in my driveway. Just me and Logan, my pit bull. I named him Logan because, honestly, he's built like Wolverine. Thick shoulders, unshakable stare, and if you throw a tennis ball at him, he looks at you like, "Really? That's what you brought me into this world for?" He's my shadow now. Sleeps on my couch, snores louder than a chainsaw, and somehow manages to take up 90% of my bed, even though he's supposed to be the smaller one. And just to add, he farts. Toby's still around, of course. We ended up grabbing tickets to WrestleMania a couple of weeks ago. Worst seats in the entire stadium. Like, I swear we were closer to the parking lot than the ring. I needed binoculars just to see the wrestlers walk down the ramp. I nudged Toby and said, "Pretty sure that's either John Cena or a hot dog vendor. Hard to tell from up here." He squinted like he was examining fine art. "Nah, that's definitely a hot dog vendor. Cena doesn't carry mustard packets." We laughed so hard the people in front of us turned around and glared. Didn't matter though, the atmosphere was electric. You could feel the crowd shake the building every time someone hit their finisher. It didn't matter that we were basically watching ants body slam each other. We were there. When we got back home, Logan greeted us at the door like we'd been gone for months. I swear, that dog thinks he's the third member of our squad. Toby plopped on the couch, I tossed Logan a chew toy, and we booted up Call of Duty. Shotgun the sniper rifle. Toby said, like he always does. "Fine," I replied. "But if you no-scope me again, I'm pulling the plug on your controller." We played until 2 in the morning, laughing at our terrible deaths, and arguing over whose fault it was when the team got wiped. Logan sat at my feet the whole time, occasionally growling at the screen like he was personally offended by the enemy team. And honestly, that's my happy ending. No drama, no lies. Just me, my best friend, my dog, and a life that finally feels like mine. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.